All right.
Indeed. All right.
There we are
We
again. There
are
we are again.
once again. Here we are. Welcome back, fellow seekers. Yeah, another dive, huh? Another dive. Jesus. Oh man. Well, what a hit spinning, it's been over here. Yeah. We're getting all kinds of crosswinds and mixed messages and whatnot from the government around, lockdown measures and whatnot. Yeah, it's really weird. I don't know what it's like for you in New Zealand, but it feels like over here we're just not really getting any clear or direct messages around what to do. It's quite bothersome actually. Yeah, well, what's it like over in the land of the Lord and White Cloud, my friend?
well, today's Thursday.
It is Thursday.
We've got Friday, Saturday, Sunday. 3 more days of level 3 lockdown.
Yeah, yeah.
Not
well,
too bad.
At least there's light there at the end of the tunnel. Kind of. Yeah.
This light. We definitely have plans in this part of the world as well to get on with.
Yes.
So in some ways,
that is too hard. Yes.
yeah. Yeah, we will see how it goes. Certainly, don't want to count our chickens before they hatch, but we'll see. Sometimes you just can't predict what's going on in this world these days, but we flow with it.
Yeah. No, you're right though. It is uncertain times, so perhaps maybe it is a bit of an ask to expect, some clarity around how to move forward. Or I don't know. Is it still reasonable to expect, some kind of direct answers, perhaps, or some clear instructions? Or is it a luxury that's gone with this new normal?
I think right now, yeah, we certainly can't. We can't get clarity with regards to things that are coming in, just because we are working off the information that we get. And of course, there's a huge debate out there about what's right information, what's wrong information, what you can believe in, what is truth, what is completely false, what's conspiracy. Oh, we just don't know. And of course, we want answers in this day and age, because answers gives us a certain sense of certainty, and then we can proceed with our lives with that certainty. But that's something we have to deal with because we just don't know. There are a lot of changes right now.
Definitely.
And also we don't know how this virus works, at least from the scientific point of view. And that's why there's a lot of debate out there with regards to how we're gonna treat this situation. With caution, or not enough caution, too much caution, no caution.
Well,
who knows?
Yeah. It is really tough when you don't really know what authority to really place your trust and hope in. Yeah. It's anyone's guess right now. Yeah.
So, well, that's the thing about trust. How do we know who to trust in this whole situation? Obviously, we have the people that are running the show, the government, and they place their trust in the scientific method, and then they interpret that and make the policies as such. And then they deliver it, and they'll ask us, "Hey, okay, this is what we need of you as a society," and they put it down, and then it's up to us to go, well, do we trust this direction that's coming up from the top? And what are the motivations? And a lot of the times, trust is something that's always very fluid in government anyway.
Absolutely.
Do we necessarily know what they say is true? or do they have a certain agenda around that? And also with science as well, do people place their trust in science, or will they not place their trust in science? I like to go back to the whole example that has fascinated me, is the example of the flat earth theory.
Yes.
And I know it sounds pretty hilarious. And mind you, people who believe in flat earth theory, they're not dumb people at all. A lot of them are very well educated, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there's only one aspect that they that leads them in the way of the way that they think that they do, and that little gap in that is that, well, maybe not a gap. To some people it's a gap, but to them it's complete logic. Their logic is, we don't trust science, we don't trust NASA. All these science and NASA have a certain agenda that is manipulated by some other higher force or whatever their own personal gains, or they don't trust that the method is watertight, and they see how science develops as a method, and like for example, like when Copernicus came out with the theory that Earth revolves around the sun. The science at that time didn't catch up to that, so they feel that science is misinformed.
Right.
So, but the culmination of that means that they don't trust science now, and they propose another theory that the Earth is flat, and whatever other facts come out as a result is complete fallacy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the same goes with the government. Conspiracy theories come as a result of not trusting in the leadership that we have. So we look at alternatives that give a reason to believe otherwise, or verify that the trust that we may not have with the government, or there's a reason for that.
Yeah. So it's a troubling time, huh? It kind of feels like that it just really kind of one kind of chaos leading to another, really. This entire year of 2020 just feels like it's just like a never-ending train wreck, really. And when you're dealing with so much uncertainty, I guess trust really becomes quite a scarce resource. So, and we have spoken about this in previous chats about kind of remaining grounded, and it is tough. I mean, that's what we're trying to do really with the podcast, is about trying to find balance in very imbalanced times. And I wonder whether perhaps something that could help in finding balance is just having something sure to hold on to. Something that's clear, something that's direct, perhaps something that is trusted and trustable, perhaps. And maybe that's something we need to look for, just something to anchor us in these times, huh?
Yeah. Well, this is the last topic that we talked about in the last men's group, was around directness, and maybe we had an element of assertiveness in there. But I think in this case, in this discussion, I think I would like to refer to directness as a valuable trait to have, in terms of how we think, how we communicate, how we present ourselves. Directness usually indicates some sort of clarity.
Sure.
And of course, when we don't really have a clear train of thought, then we won't be as direct as we can be. And so with directness comes more clarity of thinking. More clarity gives more certainty. More certainty gives a better sense of safety. And with a better sense of safety, you can develop trust that way. So it kind of like, I feel it goes in that sort of string of events.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So we want, like, for example, when the prime minister goes up with the information that she's got and that's not very clear, it translates across, and then we pick that up and we just go, well, it's not very direct. It's confusing. Therefore, how am I so sure that you know what you're doing? And then it leaves room for other ways of other reasons to distrust, like policies and even things like lockdown as well. Like,
yeah, true. Well, actually, that's an interesting point. So, in New Zealand, you guys are having your elections really soon, aren't you? I understand it's being pushed back to cater for, the evolution of events, with a rise in cases going on right now. But nevertheless, it does seem like Jacinda Ardern seems to more or less attract praise for having a clear sense of leadership, and that's it's actually a nice contrast actually to the leadership that we've got going on here in the UK at the moment. So that's something to take heart, perhaps.
Well, I'm personally supportive of Jacinda and her policies for now. I feel that she's done the right thing given the priorities priorities set given by the information that came in through scientific sources. I'll say that's probably the best thing to trust is the science behind the virus and all that. And my sister's a scientist, and I know she's a very rational, smart person. She works for a very, very smart person and people too. So I've got no reason to doubt that, they have the best interests of society in their minds. So I believe that the same information is being fed across to government. And at the same time, not everyone has that luxury as well how would I say, the luxury to know, like, for me, I understand the scientific process a little bit more because of my sister, and I talk to her about it, so I get a better understanding. But I don't know if everyone is really aware about the entire process about that. So when they are personally affected by the lockdown, and when they have lost their work and their families are affected, kids are at home, they're not in school, and everything grinds to a halt like that, and maybe there's family problems, domestic things that happen, and other problems. If they do arise, then they're just going to go, well, is this actually that needed? Is this worthwhile? Is this, or is there actually a virus out there? So there gives reasons. There are more reasons to actually doubt that that this was actually a decision.
Right.
Now, with that, I usually just go back to the whole understanding that my understanding that politics and government have really just one very big priority that maintains them in power, and that's economic growth, economic stability, economic growth. With economic stability and growth, there is really everyone's happy because we thrive on growth.
That is true. But speaking of that, though, it is in a sense, impossible for everyone to be certainly equally happy. I mean, it's not possible to please everyone's interests and needs simultaneously, and there has to be some kind of, I guess, balancing act that's being played. But also, given that there are often competing interests, say for example, if you're an employer of a small business, right, and you're struggling these times, right, and you're trying to do whatever it takes to keep your costs down, and obviously this means having to let go of workers at the moment if you cannot afford to pay them, right? But then on the other hand, you on the workers from the workers' point of view, obviously it's in their interest to stay employed because they don't want to lose their jobs. So it's impossible in this type of situation to actually have both, I guess, demands satisfied, because, well, these are interesting times we're living in, and so perhaps we have spoken about this in the previous podcast. Some, I guess, some sacrifices do have to be made, and compromises and trade-offs and that sort of thing. But given that there will always be someone who kind of loses out or misses out, perhaps I wonder if this is something that just has to be accepted as part of the new normal, or is that too dangerous, too scary a prospect to perhaps even conceive of?
I want to go back another step before I get into that side of the question. I think what I was trying to get at as a main point was that the lockdown is counterintuitive for any government to sustain themselves and retain their power, because it really puts a spanner in the works with regards to the economy. The economy is like the big sacrifice, the big trade-off. No government in the right mind will do that unless they feel that's completely necessary. So I feel that if they made a decision like that, it has to be quite serious, and they respond accordingly with that, with the information they've got. But they assess, as in risk assessment, you just go, okay, what is the decision to make based on what is the priority right now. And the current government has made the priority about lives, not money, not mental health, not all the other fallout consequences of the lockdown, but they made the priority lives. So on a morality point of view, big ups, big score.
Sure. But
based on the information that they have.
Yes.
Of course there are going to be problems, a lot of problems. People will be frustrated, people will be jobless, people will have to change a career and all this stuff, and people be stressed, and stressed people cause violence, and then this whole list of unintended consequences.
Yes, just keeps escalating. Absolutely. Yeah.
It'll be presumptuous to think that the government hasn't thought about that.
That's a point here. There are very direct consequences and ramifications for whatever decision they make and whatever path is taken. And mind you, even with every possible option out there, there are indirect consequences that could result from that. And so, in a sense, it's really impossible to truly predict the true fallout from all this. I mean, there's someone saying that a second wave is going to hit us all soon, and it's interesting because so you're in the southern hemisphere, and some scientists will say that another wave is going to hit because you're moving into summertime by the end of this year, whereas for us in the northern hemisphere, we are moving into wintertime. And there are also scientists here saying that actually the second wave is going to hit worse because we're shifting from heat into cold, essentially. And so there doesn't seem to be any clear direction around actually which scenario is more likely. And so perhaps it's just a wait and see right now. Maybe that's the best we can do, huh?
There's a lot of contradictions within science too, for sure. When I asked my sister about it, she said that's normal. It's the part of the democratic process of science. You're gonna need papers that are gonna prove other papers otherwise.
True. Yes.
That's how you create the two sides to find the middle point. They're doing this balancing as well with their scientific method. So it's not really cool to necessarily take a scientific study that confirms your bias and promote it individually in the absence of the other studies that prove that study otherwise.
Yeah.
That's why she says it's important that it takes time to develop all these research out there so that we can find the middle, the mean, or the trends that skew studies in a certain way or not. And that's what the scientists do. They figure out these trends.
Yes.
Not someone who has got an opinion on the internet thinking that if I quote a scientific paper, that's enough. It's not enough. You got to know how to interpret it. I don't know how to interpret it. I'm not a scientist. But I need to, for a little moment, place some trust in the scientists who are experts in their field. Yeah. If I'm sick, I'll go to a doctor. Yeah. Or if I'm sick, I'll go to a naturopathic doctor or someone that I deem has done the work and they understand how to diagnose a problem. I wouldn't go to Google because he'll tell me I've got cancer and I'm gonna die tomorrow.
Yes. And there are all kinds of theories on the internet, depending on where you look, that tell you all kinds of things. And really, I mean, it's there's chaos out there. And
yeah, absolutely.
Perhaps trust is really one of the casualties of 2020. And you spoke about this earlier. Conspiracies seem to abound right now. Everyone's trying to figure out what's going on, and everyone's just against you. And so you're trying to find a kind of a corner in this reality where you can just be yourself and just be, I don't know, in a space of trust, perhaps. But maybe that's also a luxury that we no longer have now.
Well, we want to feel safe. Everyone, children, women. I mean, that's a priority in their lives to feel safe.
Absolutely.
And then not to mention men too. Men also want to feel safe. The trouble is that we are normally the ones expected to create the safety, but we want to feel safe too for ourselves.
True. Yeah.
And we got to trust in that safety. The certainty gives us safety. Certainty sometimes, when things are uncertain, you just go, what is causing this uncertainty? And then we have a tendency to need to blame something. What is at fault? Because you want to put things in boxes, like that's the fault categories in there, like. And then when you can blame something, that creates certainty.
Yeah.
And then it's a very primal instinct of ours, I believe. Knowing where the enemy is. This is me. This is my safe zone. This is my home. That's the enemy out there. It's part of survival. It's ingrained in our, psyche, DNA, genetics, whatever.
That is true. Yes.
Yeah. So in this circumstances right now, when everything's all turned upside down, topsy-turvy, we want to blame something. And then you find targets to blame, especially the things that you don't trust. They become the subject of our blame.
That's true. Well, I guess what's going on now is that parameters are shifting, right? Because if you want to be able to say trust someone or something, there has to be a certain cutoff point where you think, okay, beyond this, I think I cannot possibly believe in this. But anything up to there, yeah, it's believable. So it's perhaps an issue of boundaries. Perhaps where do we put our boundaries of trust? And for some, perhaps it might mean putting up walls to really keep that circle of trust as small as possible. And for others, perhaps it's a bit more fluid. So they put up filters that can allow some trust to seep through, but otherwise still keep most of it out. And so it's really interesting because we are realigning actually where we stand right now in relation to the world around us. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it sounds like it might deserve a bit of a dive, really, because this really brings up another host of issues. But we don't want to be diving directly into those right now, perhaps.
Are you alluding to a thrust into trust?
Perhaps that's what we need. Perhaps yes. We need to just boost our trust and our thrust, so we can keep going in these tough times. Huh?